What is going on, the Overemployed Army? In this video, we're going to talk about the perfect resume that will help you get jobs and interviews. Okay, so let's first talk about how your resume is the first barrier to an offer. With a poor resume, you simply will not get noticed regardless of how skilled you are and how experienced you are, because the recruiter won't have the opportunity to see your potential or your skill set, right? And you have to remember that no resume leads to no interview and no offer. So that's the obvious one. Obviously, if you don't submit a resume, you're not going to get an interview. Now, this thing people don't realize is even with a bad resume, you're still not going to get an interview and you're still not going to get an offer, right? So your resume is the most important thing in the early stages of the job process. And that scribbling on the right there is what a lot of your resumes look like before they get optimized, right? So simple things to keep in mind: always keep it into a PDF or a docx form, right? So you don't want to use txt files or weird resume formats. Just keep it simple: Word doc or PDF files. And you have to remember that they have to be readable and well formatted. No one wants to read an essay. No one wants to see huge essays and walls of text. And also, no one wants to see 2 to 3 or 4 or 5 pages of a resume, right? Now, if you have over 10 years of experience and you're an expert in your field, sure, then you can go over one page. But for 99% of you, all you need is one page, right? No one's going to really scroll down to see the second page. So the other thing is resume summaries, right? No one really benefits from this. So a lot of you guys use resume summaries, and maybe in very niche situations, it does benefit you. But in general, no one really wants to see a long drawn out objective or summary unless it really adds value, but it usually never really adds value, right? It'll never hold the same weight as an actual experience that you have listed on your resume at a real company. Because at the end of the day, anyone can write anything about themselves, right? So you can write, oh, I'm an experienced developer that has this much experience with these skill sets. But again, no one's really going to take that into consideration until they see the name brand company on your resume, right? So that's the most important thing. Your long resume summary is kind of irrelevant. And you have to realize that recruiters and hiring managers usually take only a few seconds to scan through your resume, right? Their eyes quickly go up and down. And if you have amazing experiences, why would you bury them under a summary of your skill set, right? You have to lead with what you're best at. So you're basically ruining your own chances by including that long essay summary, and you're making it harder on yourself, right? They're going to get bored reading it. So a really good example of a bad resume is what I was just mentioning there, is people not leading with what they're most proud of, right? The thing that's most impressive about you as an employee. So are you more proud of knowing Amazon Web Services, you know how to use the cloud technologies, or working at Google for a decade? It's an obvious one, but a lot of you make this mistake. You'd rather list that you know this tech skill versus the fact that you've worked at a top tech giant for a decade, right? That's the most important thing. That's what you should want a recruiter or a hiring manager to see first, because it means the most. And you have to think about it in simple terms, right? If someone at a party asked you what you do, are you going to say you know AWS, or are you going to say that you work at Google? No one's going to care about AWS, that you know it. They're going to assume you probably know AWS just by the fact you work at Google, right? They're going to assume that that's something you could easily pick up if you needed to, right? So you already know this. This is kind of common sense, but a lot of you just don't apply this logic to your resume. You think you have to follow this format that you once saw 4 years ago in college, and you've always had the same resume. But you have to break out of that same old thinking. You have to really lead with what you're most proud of. And you have to optimize, right? So let's say you don't work at Google, or maybe you have zero experience. You still have to apply the same logic. So lead with the most impressive aspect of your background, right? Whether that's education, maybe you went to a really good college, maybe you have amazing side projects, right? And if you don't have any of these, if you don't have experience, you don't have education, no projects, and nothing is impressive about you, this video isn't really for you. You need to go build some skills, and you need to go build projects, right? And then that way you can actually have a useful resume. And the other thing a lot of people mistake, right, is experiences. So I'm talking about the section where you have experiences on your resume at companies and you have bullet points. First of all, always stick with bullet points. Don't use huge paragraphs in your experience descriptions, right? Stick with bullet points. So you want to be concise, precise, and descriptive, right? Those 3 things are the most important things in your experience bullet points. So you basically have to show, whether it's for a tech job or any white collar corporate job, you have to show how you tie your industry knowledge, whether that's tech knowledge or finance knowledge, whatever, with verifiable creations and improvements to your company. So how did that lead to profitable changes in that company, right? Because that's what people want to see. They want to know that you know how a business operates. It's about money at the end of the day. So here are some ways you should and shouldn't describe your experiences, right? Some example bullet points. So we're going to use tech for this example here, and we're going to say what not to do, right? So some people will say, I used Java to implement new features for service X, or I collaborated with team members to deliver service X. Well, this one's so basic and it doesn't really tell me anything, right? It's like, yeah, sure, of course you did. Like anyone can say that, right? What does it tell me? It doesn't really show me that you improved anything or that you made anything significantly different, right? So here's an example of how you improve that and what you should do when you list this on your resume. So one amazing example would be increased site X's user retention by 35% by significantly reducing latency, 2 seconds in brackets there, within the Java backend of Service X, right? And then here's another example. I optimized cloud services for Service X, resulting in zero degradation of service and $10,000 of annual savings. Now you tell me, it's very obvious when you hear these back to back which one's more impressive, right? And it's obviously the ones that have those analytics in there, and they also show how you tied in your tech knowledge or whatever industry knowledge you have to make those changes, right? So it shows you're skilled, but you're also focused on improving their company. And that's what people want. They want someone that's going to improve their company. That's why they're hiring you, right? They're not hiring you just because you know Java and you want to have fun coding in Java. It's a business, right? And here's another one. Implemented algorithm X using Python to serve as the foundation for Service X, which is now used by 200,000 plus customers. And you can see you can use a variety of analytics here. You can use the user base, how many users you've impacted, or how much money you've saved the company, or how much you've improved speeds, which in turn improves user experience, right? And it's a very simple formula if you kind of break it down here. Maybe you've noticed it, but I'll put it here directly explicitly. It's the formula is tech. So whatever, and you can replace tech with maybe finance instruments, whatever your industry is, the tech plus the business improvement, right? So when you have those two subpoints into one point, that's what people want to see. You have to realize which one is more convincing, right? It's obviously the one that follows the formula. And which one demonstrates that you're not just a programmer or a business analyst or a consultant, but a business oriented worker, right? You generally want to improve their company and their bottom line in extension. You have to remember that you're applying to work at a company. You're not applying to do projects or work things for fun. If you have fun doing these things that work, that's good, but that's not why you're hired, right? So for this video, that's going to be it, guys. If you do have any comments, please leave a comment down below. Remember, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and if you do want to become overemployed, check out the Overemployed Masterclass. We teach you how to become and how to stay overemployed for the long term in the description box and the pinned comment down below, and I will see you guys next time.